I'm asked often, what creatures live in the water of Crater Lake? What do you think? What do you think?
The Loch Ness Monster.
Loch Ness, sea monsters,
Freshwater mermaid. Kraken.
Kraken. And you vote freshwater mermaids? Wizards, of course.
They have to be.
Yeah, wizards.
Mine.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm sure there are mythical creatures out there.
There's got to be. Yeah.
There's probably at least one sea monster, at least. Well, in fact, November 12th, 1945, the water started fizzing and bubbling out in the middle of the lake. An enormous bubble of gas belched forth out of the lake, a 300-foot tall plume of green gas, right? So, I mean, that's the sea monster farting massively, I'm sure. So,
What they determine?
it's just a gas release from the volcano. Some volcanic action, for
Had
sure.
another one happen since?
Yeah, and then the same day, two more happened. And people watched it, but never since. 1945. So there is a creature down there. There's a little guy down there called the Mazama Newt, which has a sort of ring to it, like Mazama Newt. Mazama Newt, Mazama Newt, Mazama Newt. There is a newt, a Mazama Newt, Mazama Newt.
Mazama Newt.
Is a newt a lizard?
Okay, I guess.
Salamander.
No.
Well, according to the Princess Bride.
Yeah.
I like your research.
Yes. Right. A newt. He turned me into a newt.
A newt.
Got better.
A newt is like a salamander, right? That lives mostly on dry land, but it breeds in the aquatic environment. This Mazama newt is a relative of what is called the rough-skinned newt that lives all over in the Cascades in the high lakes and stuff. I've been swimming and you can see them coming up for air. Yeah.
This still exists, these rough-skinned newts?
Yeah, so the rough-skinned newts exist all over in the Cascades. But if you encounter one, don't chew on them because they're extremely toxic, right? They are like poison arrow frog level. Like one newt has enough toxin to kill over 100 adult human beings. And it's because they're locked in an arms race with the garter snakes. The garter snakes eat them and they burp a little spicy burp and they say, that was pretty good. But they don't perish because they have a tolerance. Snake would get more of a tolerance, and then the newt would get more toxic, and then the snake would get more tolerant, and toxic, intolerant, toxic, intolerant, and the garter snake's tolerant, and toxic, intolerant, toxic, intolerant. And the more tolerant they get to the poison, the more poisonous the newt gets. And so they became extremely toxic.
A man who says things in a very roundabout way.
There's a little story about that. 3 guys went out hunting in 1960 out in the mountains here, and they never came back. Disappeared in the mountains around here. And they didn't know what happened to him. They sent search and rescue after him. After some time, they found the 3 bodies. They found them dead in their lawn chairs. The sheriff's department was doing an investigation. There was no sign of a struggle. But a 4th body was found on the scene. Yeah, a body about 6 inches long, you're right. A rough-skinned newt was found in their coffee can. So they surmised that they had dipped their coffee can in the river to get water for coffee.
And in the meantime, boiled the newt.
Yeah, so they boiled that newt in there and they each took a sip. After about 1 sip of that was the end of them.
Night, night. Night.
Yeah. And that was the last coffee they ever had. Killer coffee. The Mazama newt, on the other hand, it's a close relative down here in the lake, was the apex predator for 7,000 years, right? A little newt is on the very top of the food chain. This is a very inert body of water, like I was saying, right? This lake had no fish in it. And it was isolated for so long that it became a pacifist. It lost its toxicity because it did not have any other natural predators. Until the Park Service decided to introduce fish to the lake. From 1888 to 1941, there was a program to introduce lake fish, trout and salmon to the lake, 9 different species. They're kokanee salmon. There's one species of salmon that does not need to migrate and can live in landlocked environments.
That was my question too.
Right? Since then, the Mazama newt's population has dwindled. And it's not necessarily because of the fish. The fish do eat the eggs, But it's also because in 1915 the Park Service decided to add red crayfish to the lake as food for the fish. Crawfish are so good, right? We got a Louisiana person here. So just
Yeah, you're saying it wrong.
crawfish. So right, crawfish. So these crayfish are decimating the population of the newt. It's in a quite sad way. They're not toxic anymore. They're not toxic enough anyway. So they're breeding them outside the lake and reintroducing new ones in hopes that they can survive. But we will see. We will see. So invasive species are a big problem. You know, this is the clearest body of water in the world. So that's why the Park Service is very assiduous about trying to prevent another blunder like this in the future. You know, for instance, you can't bring your own boats. You don't see boats out there. You would, you know, you'd think that, oh, there'd just be like kayaks and canoes galore out there, but you can't even put so much as a inflatable raft in the lake. So, but you can swim.
I did see that.
You
One
c-
spot you can swim.
Yeah, down at Cleetwood Cove, about 12 o'clock. There's a big cove over there, and you can hike down to that, about a mile. We joke it's about a mile down and 6 miles back.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a very steep mile. So, well, obviously, wizards have always been attracted to this place, and you know, one wizard was like, "I'm gonna set up shop right out there." I know. Yeah, of course. That's his boat and his boathouse. No, so it's called Wizard Island because a fella named William Steele, the second park superintendent, he put the first boat in the lake that ever was in the lake. It was called the Cleetwood. He went around with a geologic survey and they sounded the depth of the lake. They did a whole bunch of research, but he just started naming everything fantasy names. Remember I told about this guy, how he's sort of eccentric, right? This same guy wanted to build the rim drive, right? But not outside the caldera, inside the caldera, an engineering nightmare. He also wanted to build an elevator down to the lake surface. He wanted to build a bridge over to Wizard Island. He had a,
Think big.
yeah, you got to think big, man, and he thought big, for sure. But he did put the first boat in the lake, the Cleetwood, and the Cleetwood. He named it because he said he had a dream of an arrow being shot across the sun, and it said Cleetwood in its wake. And you know, this guy, he was, yeah, right.
Smoking.
Well, Crater Lake water, that's for sure. I love
There's a
questions.
legend that was spoken about on the other side
Yeah.
of the land.
Land spirit and the water spirit.
Yeah,
and
well-
one of them looked like a crawfish.
Right, okay, so that's Lau and Skell, right?
Right.
The Native Americans have been coming here for thousands of years, right? This was a sacred place to them. They even called the island, they called the lake Jiwas, which means a sacred place. And it still is sacred. When a place is a national park, it's set apart, right? It's holy. That's what the word holy means. It means set apart. So this lake was holy to them, right? And not only was it holy, it was a big part of their origin myth of the world, of the creation of the world. Basically, there were two deities that were fighting each other, Lau and Skell. And Lau was the lord of the underworld, and his throne was here at Jiwas. And Skell was the lord of the overworld, and his throne was over here at Mount Shasta. So they continuously fought battles with each other, flinging flaming missiles over the heads of the Klamaths down in the basin there. Flaming balls of fire coming from the earth, right? So eventually Skell defeated Lau, and he crushed his throne and threw his body into the pit, and he threw his head in as a final gesture, and that's Lau's head, the island out there that you see. But Lau had these minions that were these crayfish-like creatures. So that might tie it all in with the crayfish story. Crawfish, right? So the crawfish creatures, when they saw the head of their master and they saw that he was dead, they began to cry. And they cried and they cried so many tears that it filled up the lake with their tears. And that's what we're looking at, the tears of Lau's minions. That's a lot of tears.
From a crustacean.
That's a lot of crustacean tears, yeah.
Wait, is that true?
That's what they said.
What do you think?
Well, is it true? That's the best question I've heard all day. Is it true? Of course it's true, because it's in the realm of mythos. Mythos means, remember, narrative, fiction, story.
It's a story that goes with the culture.
And it's something that is timeless. So it's something that you participate in every time someone tells the story. They participate in it afresh. And that is what mythos is. So, and myth is the word directly derived in our language from mythos. So, fiction is a better way of telling the truth than documentary. If you don't believe me, ask Mark Twain or Herman Melville. They'll back me up. Who's Mark Twainer?
Because you said or after Twain.
Yeah.
There's Mark Twain.
Ask Mark Twainer. Do it. So thank you guys, all of you. Thank you guys. Thank you
Sure.
for participating in our shared mythos. It is so important, more now than ever. I in our time of media and mediated information, to come here and see this place in person is more important than ever. You know, it's something that people come from all over the world to do. It's participating in an endless long game story, far longer than our lifetimes and far longer than we can imagine. So I think I filmed a salamander.
A newt.